The Psychology of Gay Sexual Fantasies. Hey guys, Michael Pizzulo here, psychotherapist in West Hollywood, working mostly with gay men. So when we often think about fantasies, we think of them being sort of like random and spontaneous and abstract and confusing, and all of those things are true. But I think what often gets lost is there's a lot of meaning behind them and actually a lot that we can take and learn to understand ourselves better. So often, people fantasize about things that just really catch them off guard. It could be a person, a scenario. Often it might be something that they're not actually really even excited about or attracted to in real life, but for some reason their fantasy world has caught on to this. And I think there are two particular reasons why we see this happening and ways that you can use your fantasies to actually understand yourself better, both just as yourself and also how you show up in relationships and sexual chemistry and things like that. So I think the first thing, and I'll break it into two categories, but the first thing I would say is that our sexual fantasies often capture expressing something that we can't get in real life. So for example, say in your fantasies you are, the best looking guy ever and everyone wants you and so on and so forth. It may be that in real life, you're not feeling desired enough, you're not feeling wanted enough, or maybe in your past, particularly in your childhood, you didn't feel wanted enough by your caregivers and your community and school and so on and so forth. And so now this experience that you haven't been able to obtain has become sexualized, and it's something that drives eroticism and has become fodder for sexual fantasies. Could also be, I think a lot of times, especially in gay porn, we see a lot of themes around masculinity with like the daddy fantasies and twinks and age differences and so on and so forth. But even with this idea of going after straight men, I think in that there may also be this idea of, as a gay man in real life, I was not able to experience masculinity the way that I wanted to, either again in the past or now. And so in fantasy, there's something really erotic and sexual about experiencing this type of masculinity, whether it's with an older man or a very traditionally masculine man, or who knows, or a straight guy who's, covert or something like that, that desire to experience masculinity can again fuse into eroticism and become fodder for sexual fantasies. The other thing I would say is that sexual fantasies often play on things that we have not resolved within ourselves. So you'll notice that a lot of, porn and just common sexual scenarios deal with, power play and shame dynamics and things like that. So I would think of it this way of, say, for example, there's a part of you that you're very ashamed of. Maybe you didn't feel like you were a good kid when you were growing up. You felt like your parents didn't, see you or hear you or understand you enough, or maybe there was something about you that you felt very ashamed of and that they didn't like. That in sexuality and in fantasy, you may find yourself drawn towards scenarios that involve a lot of like humiliation, shame, guilt, and the reason being that it gives you the opportunity unconsciously to relive this experience. So you may have sort of BDSM type fantasies or power play fantasies where you're the person being, humiliated. And this may give you an opportunity to replay the humiliation that you felt growing up. For example, if you were bullied or, again, if you felt some sort of vitriol from one of your parents, that it may be an opportunity to relive this emotion and express it. And again, it's something that's painful and maybe it's been disowned or split off. But sexuality and fantasy give you an arena to re-experience this dynamic that you just haven't quite resolved. Or it could be the opposite. It could be that you harbor a lot of unresolved anger and resentment. So in your fantasies, you're the one in control, you're the one holding the power and maybe even being kind of aggressive or dominating. That could be, again, an experience that you have in you, an anger that you have in you that you haven't been able to quite resolve. So it's begun to infuse into sexual fantasy. The good news is that most sexual fantasies don't need to come to real life, and actually most people don't even want these fantasies to come to real life. But they can be, again, really useful fodder to begin to understand yourself, to learn about yourself. So I'd encourage all of you, especially gay men, because I think gay men have been historically taught to pathologize their sexuality, pathologize their fantasies, to actually try to get to know them and understand them. There may be a lot about yourself that you can learn and you can take and grow and, hopefully resolve things that have just sort of remained stuck or unclear within yourself. So curious what you guys think. I know it's a kind of a complicated topic in a certain sense, but I would really think of it just as sexual fantasies become a way to experience things that either we can't or we're having trouble experiencing and we haven't quite resolved, just to make it really simple. So I'm really curious to hear, what you guys think in the comments. If you've ever done this type of work, this is something that might come up in more long-term therapy when you develop trust with someone and you're willing to really explore these different dynamics and ideas. Sometimes if someone has like a kink or a fetish, it becomes very apparent early on, but most people, who don't, still have a fantasy world that can be quite rich and really illustrate different dynamics in their psychology that can be very useful to help them, heal and understand themselves better. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel if you like content like this about gay men and sexuality and sexual health. And if you want to talk to me directly, I will put the link in the description where you can book a free consult call with me. So thanks, guys.